You don't have a problem with authority. You just have a survival instinct that is still waiting for backup that never really arrived. If you grew up unmapped, either without a father or with a father who didn't protect you, your brain just learned a really hard lesson. It said, nobody has ever had my back for me, right? And so today when you enter a room, you aren't really looking for a leader to follow. You're looking for the exit or the hidden agenda or that inevitable moment when the person who's in charge is going to let you down. See, to you, a leader isn't a guide. They're just another person who eventually is going to leave you to handle the mess on your own. And this perception, this suspicion, if you will, isn't a personality flaw. It's this protective wall that you've built when you were a child to make sure that you never really got blindsided again. But that same wall is now keeping you from the very support and mentorship and connection that you need to stop being divided and to start being a whole person. See, you're still playing this solo game in a world that requires a team. And the exhaustion that you're feeling is the price, I think, that you're paying for being your only protector for far too long. To understand why this trust is so hard to find, we have to revisit what it means to be a whole person. Binteger is the word I use for this. This is a word used to describe a person who's moving towards being a whole entity, a whole number. In math, integer is a complete unit, not a piece, not a decimal or a fraction. And integer is the root word for the word integrity. Now, most people think integrity just means being honest, but the deeper meaning is being aligned. It's when your inner world and your outer world are aligned and matching. When you've experienced fatherlessness, you're often divided. You show a tough or competent version of yourself to the world, while the unprotected child inside stays hidden. Becoming a Binteger or a whole person means that you're closing that gap. You're becoming a whole person who doesn't have to hide. And a whole person understands that true power comes from the second pillar of our work, and that is intimacy. And we define intimacy as simply intimacy. It's the courage to let someone look past your armor and to see your reality. But the thing is, you can't have intimacy without trust. And you can't have trust if you believe that every leader is a threat. The reason you're so suspicious, perhaps, of leaders, whether it's a boss or a mentor or even a partner who's trying to take the lead, is because your father was perhaps that original leader of your life, and he failed the audition. If he was absent, he taught you that leadership is a ghost. If he was a critic or a roommate, he taught you that leadership is either a weapon or a vacuum. And either way, you were left to raise yourself. You had to become your own protector, your own provider, your own judge, because you never felt the safety of a father's backing of your nervous system. And so now your nervous system is permanently set to high alert, and you're hyper vigilant, and you notice every shift in a leader's tone and every change in their plans. And so you interpret their mistakes as a personal betrayal, because in your childhood, a leader's mistake meant that you didn't eat, or you weren't safe, or you're often left alone. And so now you're treating your current life like this battlefield where you are the only soldier left in the trenches. Now, this protection gap, it creates a life of deep internal division, right? On the outside, you look like you're a leader, and you're often the one that people will turn to, right? Because you're so good at handling things alone. But on the inside, you're divided. You're terrified that if you let someone else lead, they will drive the ship into a rock, and and you'll be the one who has to swim to shore. And so you refuse to let anyone see into you, because if they see your doubt, they might take advantage of it. And this lack of intimacy makes your life incredibly heavy. You're now carrying the weight of every decision, every risk, and every fear by yourself. You have integrity in the sense that you're reliable, but you don't have integrity in the sense of being whole and aligned internally. You're in essence a divided person living a divided life, and the stress could slowly be breaking you down. But to bridge this gap, you have to realize that your suspicion of leadership is actually more of a rejection of your own vulnerability. See, you think that if you don't trust anyone, then you can't be hurt. But the truth is that if you don't trust anyone, you can't be helped. You're stuck at the level of your own limited experiences. A Binteger, a whole person, understands that being led is not a sign of weakness. It is a tactical advantage. It is the form of alignment, right? When you align yourself with a leader who has more experience or a different perspective, you aren't giving up your power. You are actually multiplying it. You're moving from being divided or a fraction on your own to being a part of a larger whole system. And this requires courage to let a leader see where you're struggling. It requires the courage to say, hey, I need to have someone watching my back, right? Now, as we talk about this, I'm guessing that there might be some questions that immediately come to the surface for you, my listener. You might be sitting there thinking, what if the leader I'm supposed to trust is actually incompetent or untrustworthy? Now, this is a very real concern for someone who's been let down before. And the answer is that being a whole person, being a Binteger, doesn't mean that you become blind. It means that you develop discernment instead of suspicion. Suspicion is an emotional wall that keeps everyone outside, right? Whereas discernment is a gate that you control. And when you are whole and aligned, you don't need to fear a bad leader, just because you trust yourself enough to be able to walk away if things get toxic. You're no longer that helpless child who had no choice but to stay. You're now an adult who has a map. And you can test a leader's integrity. You can watch for alignment in their life. And if they aren't a whole person, you don't have to follow them. But don't let the fear of a bad leader stop you from actually finding a good one. See, you might also ask something like, how do I even start trusting someone when my default setting is really to do it all by myself? I think the shift here happens in small controlled steps. You don't have to hand over the keys to your entire life today. You start practicing intimacy in these low stake situations. So you could tell a colleague that you aren't sure about a project, for example, or you could ask a partner to handle a specific task without checking up on them 5 times. Notice the physical sensation in your chest when you let go of that control, though. See, you might feel your heart racing, and you might feel that urge to step back in. But don't. Stay in that discomfort. See, you're retraining your nervous system to understand that the world doesn't end when you aren't the one in charge. And every time you let someone have your back, you're healing that original protection gap that you experienced. Another question that some might ask is, does being led mean that I'm losing my independence? See, for those who have experienced fatherlessness, independence is the only thing that we feel that we truly own. But there's a massive difference between independence and isolation. Independence is the ability to stand on your own, whereas isolation is the inability to stand with anyone else. A Binteger is independent enough to be whole, but wise enough to also be connected. Real strength is the ability to choose your own alliances. And when you allow yourself to be led by someone who has integrity, you really aren't losing your independence. You are investing it. You are using your strength to build something much bigger than yourself. And a lone wolf is just a wolf that hasn't found his pack yet. Now, finally, you might be wondering, is it ever too late to find a leader or a mentor if I'm already deep into my own adult life? And the answer here, I would say, is a loud and resounding no. See, the map of adulthood or manhood, and actually the map for anyone who's in this season, is a lifelong project. Some of the best mentors appear when we might be in our 40s or 50s or even 60s for that matter. The only thing that makes it too late is your own pride. If you decide that you already know everything, then the map is closed. But if you decide to be an integer, a person who's always seeking wholeness, then you'll find that mentors are everywhere. They are waiting for someone who has the integrity to be real about where they are. They're looking, if you will, for someone who is ready to be seen. Now, choosing to trust a leader is I would say the ultimate act of reclaiming your childhood. It's you finally saying to yourself, I don't have to do this alone anymore. It's you filling in that hole that your father left. And so when you align yourself with someone who has your back, the hypervigilance will start to fade. And you stop looking for the exit and now start looking for the horizon. You realize that you've spent your life defending a small, lonely island while there was an entire continent of growth that was waiting for you. And this is the transformation of a Binteger. We are moving from a divided life of suspicion to a whole life of alignment and intimacy. And you're finally safe to be known, and you're finally safe to be led. Now, the weight of this insight is really meant to challenge the solo identity that you've used as a shield. It's meant to make you realize that your self-reliance got you this far, yes, but it can't take you where you want to go next. And you're ready now to stop being a fraction or divided, and you're ready to pursue wholeness. And this is the beginning of the life where you don't have to be the only person with a map. The backup has arrived, and it starts with your choice to trust. But even when you decide to trust, though, and when we decide to be whole, there's a physical reality I think we have to face. See, carrying the weight of being unmapped for years, it takes a toll on our body and on our mind as well. And we might feel like we're doing the work, but we're also feeling like we're running on empty. So in tomorrow's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about the exhaustion of trying to figure it out alone. And we'll look here at why we feel so tired even when we aren't working, and how the mental load of being our own father is burning us out from the inside out. So the thing is, you aren't lazy. You're just carrying a mountain. And we just have to figure out how to put that down. That's in tomorrow's episode. I'm getting cold, so I'm going to go back and get warm. I'll see you in tomorrow's episode. Thanks for listening in. Appreciate you guys.